Hey everyone, this video is the beginning of my coverage of the comic series Fear Agent, written by Rick Remender. This series was published from 2005 to 2011, and it was collected in 6 trade paperbacks, and I'm going to be covering the whole thing, so this is the beginning of my coverage, part 1 of 6. Now, why should you be interested in this series? Well, it is a hard sci-fi book with interstellar space travel, weird aliens, weird planets, clones, time travel, all sorts of craziness, and that is what makes it so fun. Our main character is this guy named Heath Houston. He is like the typical alpha male, like Han Solo or Bruce Willis in Die Hard. He's a very quick talking guy, but he's also a drunk redneck alcoholic. So it makes it really fun to see his adventure. He's going to try and save Earth from some alien invaders. He's also going to be exploring the galaxy, and he's going to be trying to win back his family. And it's a very compelling journey. Now, the writer on this book is Rick Remender. He wrote Deadly Class, which was a pretty cool series that was also adapted into a TV show. The artist on the book is Tony Moore, who also did the artwork in The Walking Dead, so that is pretty cool. And this series was announced this year that it is being adapted into a TV show on Amazon Prime Video, and Seth Rogen is attached to produce it. Seth Rogen also produced The Boys, as well as Preacher, as well as a series on Hulu called Future Man, which I think is most similar in vibe to Fear Agent. There's also this guy, David F. Sandberg. He directed the Shazam movies, and he is also attached to this, so that is pretty exciting. So, with all that in mind, I thought it would be really cool to dive into this series and prepare for the TV show that will eventually be coming out. So let's dive into it now. Fear Agent Volume 1. Fear Agent Volume 1 Reignition, written by Rick Remender, art by Tony Moore. Our book opens up in space. An alien truck driver is trying to dock at a nearby spaceport / gas / truck stop. He is asking for permission to dock, but no one at the spaceport is responding to his calls. The alien truck driver decides to park there anyway. When he gets off his truck, he enters the port, and he is annoyed. No one's here. Where is everyone? Even the fast food Chili Shack restaurant, there's no one there. What is going on? The truck driver, in frustration, says out loud, "Where in the triquad does a man have to go to get some food?" The truck driver, he then gets grabbed by a tentacle monster that belongs to an alien race called Feeders. The Feeders grab onto the truck driver and pull him close to its mouth and then eat him and feed on him. We then jump over to the planet Phasturga, where we meet our main character. His name is Heath Houston. Heath is a Mark Twain studying redneck alcoholic from Texas. He is kind of like a drunk, meaner, more sarcastic version of Han Solo or Bruce Willis in Die Hard. He is also something called a fear agent. He is a member of a task force, the Fear Agents, dedicated to eradicating alien threats to member planets, which in Heath's case is Earth. There is a backstory of Heath and his family and what happened to Earth with regards to an alien invasion that is elaborated more on in future volumes, so you are not fully supposed to know everything right now. The answers will come later. Heath on this planet, Phasturga, is here hunting some Zlasfons. Zlasfons are members of a bestial humanoid primate-like race that usually kept to themselves and outside of population centers in their caves. There was never any problems in the past. The Zlasfons just did their own thing and lived in their caves. But lately, the Zlasfons have started coming out of their caves and down to the cities and beating people up and stealing terraforming equipment, which did seem odd. Why would the primitive, low-level Class G intelligence creatures like the Zlasfons need with such equipment? Heath was hired by the civilized planetary pilgrims on this planet to hunt these Zlasfons down and return some of the stolen equipment. He he heads out on his mission. He starts climbing a cliff, which leads to a plateau, which would then lead into a cave that is on the top. As Heath is climbing the cliff, he starts thinking about the new regulations that were passed by the member planets. They changed the killable alien rating again. It is now a direct violation of the Quintala Convention for any class A, B, or C to consciously kill a class D intellect or above. Humans are class C, so they cannot kill another class C or A or B or D. Zlasvons, though, are luckily class G, so Heath is totally in the clear to kill as many of them as he wants to. Heath, he successfully climbs the rock face, and when he gets to the top, he approaches the cave mouth, and there he is face to face with a whole bunch of Zlasvons. One of the Zlasvons attacks and jumps on top of Heath, knocking Heath to the ground. The creature is on top of Heath and breathing down on him. Heath thinks about how this creature is probably 10,000 years away from discovering mouthwash. His breath is terrible. Heath flips the Zlasvon over him and flings him off the cliff. And as Heath stands back up, 4 other Zlasvons are facing him down. They are holding tools like wrenches as weapons in their hands. One of those Zlasvons swings with the wrench at Heath. Heath ducks. The Zlasvons then rush at Heath. Heath, he backs away. He almost falls off the cliff. But Heath, as he tumbles off of it, he manages to grab on with his hands. And some of those Zlasvons that were charging at him, they kept moving forward, and they ran right off the cliff. Heath, he is hanging on to the top of the cliff. One of the other Zlasvons is standing atop of him with a weapon, and he's trying to swing down on Heath's arm to knock him off. Heath, he switches his arm positioning and grabs the wrench with one hand, and he pulls the Zlasvon holding the wrench towards him, and again makes that other Zlasvon fall off the cliff. Heath, he climbs back up once again, and he is now on top of the cliff, and he is facing that cave entrance. There is one Zlasvon left in his way for now. Heath stares it down, and he confidently holds his gun. And the Zlasvon eventually runs away in fear. Heath, he then heads into the cave. Inside the cave, Heath sees a gigantic laboratory or something, and the primitive Zlasvons appear to be building things, building some sort of rocket ship. Heath thinks, how do these primates got themselves a highfalutin rocket ship? What's going on here? Heath, he faces the crowd of Zlasvons in the cave, and he sets his gun to freeze. Heath has some sort of tank on his back, and it is filled with a substance called freonium. It's like a pesticide. It will freeze the Zlasvons when it is fired at them. Some of these Zlasvons in the cave start running towards Heath. Heath, he confidently zaps a whole group of the Zlasvons with this freeze freonium liquid. One of these Zlasvons, though, attacks Heath unexpectedly from behind and smashes down on Heath's head. Heath, he uses his arm to block that Zlasvon from biting him, but the Zlasvon bites through the freonium line in Heath's suit that was feeding the freeze gun, and it causes the Zlasvon to freeze entirely, but it also really injures Heath's arm. Heath pulls his arm out of the frozen ice, but his arm is kind of dead now. Heath abandons his freonium freeze backpack, and he moves deeper into the cave. He rounds a corner to try to get away from the Zlasvons, and as Heath rounds that corner, he is face to face with something else. A gigantic creature that looks like a giant brain. This creature is called a jelly brain. Jelly brains are an A-class intelligence, even above that of humans. The jelly brain uses some psychic ability and tries to fiddle around with Heath's own brain. The jelly brain is trying to make Heath kill himself, bash his own skull in. Heath, though, he presses a button on his suit that raises a helmet on him, and the helmet blocks the mind control of the jelly brain. Heath, he thinks to himself, last time I ran into an A-class intellect, it fried about 20 IQ points off my brain. Really took the edge off my Scrabble game. This lazy-ass jelly brain's been mind controlling these monkey men and having him collect whatever raw goods it needs from the town below. The jelly brain seems to realize it can't affect Heath, so it begins retreating. The jelly brain is trying to get its way over to the rocket ship that got these Lasvons to help it build. It is trying to get away in it. Heath can't let that happen. He won't get paid if the rocket ship gets out of here, as he's supposed to recover some of the equipment that was stolen that was used to make it. If he doesn't recover the equipment, he won't get paid, and then he can't afford the supplies he needs to get out of the system. Supplies like food, fuel, and whiskey. The jelly brain, though, has already made its way to the rocket ship, and it has started up the engines. Heath is worried now. If the rocket takes off, not only will he not get paid, it will get awfully hot in this cave. He might even die in the blast. Heath realizes that, at this point, he won't be able to stop the rocket ship from blasting off out of here. So recovering equipment is probably out of the question now, but he might as well dish out some karma. Heath prepares a bomb. He is going to strap it to the side of the rocket ship and then get out of here. But as Heath is preparing the bomb, one of the Lasvons starts wrestling with Heath. And instead of setting the detonator to 15 minutes as he was planning, Heath set it to 15 seconds instead. Definitely a screw-up. Heath, realizing that he now has to work with the situation he is in, he fights off the Lasvon and throws the bomb at the rocket ship. And then Heath starts running. He only has 15 seconds. He is booking it out of the cave. The timer goes off. The bomb explodes, and the rocket ship explodes as well, as do many Lasvons that are inside the cave. And Heath, he heroically made it outside of the cave just in time to save his life. And everything inside dies in fiery glory. Heath, he comments, "Son of a bitch," as the explosion was bigger than he expected, and it was a closer call than he thought it would be. Heath, then standing with his back to the explosion, narrates, "My name is Heath Houston. I'm an alien exterminator, last of a small band of Texas ass stompers known as the Fear Agents. Right now, I'm standing at what some would describe as a crime scene. I'm not authorized by any means to exterminate an A-class life form." He's referring to the jelly brain when he says that. "But the way I look at it, if the law didn't see me, I didn't do it." Issue 2, Reignition, Chapter 2. Heath, after a sort of successful mission, goes to collect his money. He goes down to the town and provides the mayor, who hired him, an invoice for his work. Heath, reading his own invoice, the mayor says, "Let's see here, 4 hours labor, a full canister of multi-purpose pesticide, time and a half for the jelly brain I found up there. You were into me for about 4,300 uni credits." The mayor is in disbelief. He argues, "You blew up the monkeys' nesting cavern, sending them flooding into our city on a panicked rampage. And you want me to pay you?" Heath, with a smile, says, "Tell you what, I'm gonna take 30% off that freonium." The mayor refuses to pay and tells Heath he is lucky to leave this town alive. Heath returns to his spaceship empty-handed. On Heath's spaceship, he talks to the ship's artificial intelligence called Annie. Annie asks how it went, but she kind of knows it did not go well. Heath lets it slip that he kind of assaulted the mayor a bit when he refused to pay him. Annie asks, "You assaulted the mayor of Terraform? You'll tell the local council and you'll never get work in this quadrant again." Heath tells Annie to stop lecturing him. "Let's get out of here." Heath's rocket ship then takes off. He has about enough fuel to get to the nearby Glentbin station. However, he has no money, so once he gets there, he will have to barter for supplies. On the ride over, Heath is drinking some straight-up whiskey. He looks around for some food and is sad to learn his jar of peanut butter is empty. realizing he already ate it all. Heath remembers in his youth watching Star Trek. They would have these food machines that synthesize any food you want. Well, here in reality, there ain't no such thing as a magic food machine. He drinks some more and he eventually passes out, and he wakes up a few hours later when he gets a call into his ship. The video call is from Thomas York from the United States government. Thomas York tells Heath that there's a fueling and trade pavilion in his sector that has cut off all communication. They want Heath to investigate. Heath asks, "What's the pay?" York answers, "If it's infested, 10,000 unicredits to clean it." Heath says, "Done." Heath was headed to this station anyway. Later on, when Heath finally arrives at the fueling and trade pavilion, we see it is that same deserted station the trucker was at in the opening of issue 1, the one that got killed by the feeder aliens. Annie tells Heath readouts show there to be activity inside, but no radio communications. Perhaps this is a system-wide comm crash? Heath is going to go check it out, but he tells Annie when they dock to begin fueling up. Heath wants to be ready to make a quick exit if needed. Heath's ship docks to the station and it begins fueling up, and he begins entering the station. And as he does, he notices it smells terrible. Worse than a septic tank. He actually vomits a little bit. Then he recollects himself and continues on exploring. He notices that the station does seem abandoned. He also notices a liquor store. And with everyone gone, that means free liquor. He might as well stock up on what he wants. Whatever crazy shit is going on here, Heath feels is like none of his business. Between the free fuel he is getting, all the liquor he is stealing, and whatever food he can find, he basically has everything he needs. Heath is just planning on hightailing it out of here. But as he is walking out of the liquor store, he sees a dead corpse that has been stripped down to its skeleton. Heath knows what did this. He exclaims, "Feeders, sweet Jesus!" He starts running back to his ship, but we see some feeders are now pursuing him. And the feeders, massive tentacles, round the corner and grab Heath and wrap round his body, and they start pulling Heath into its mouth. Heath grabs a grenade that is strapped to his belt and throws it into the feeder's mouth. The grenade explodes, and the blast causes the feeder to let Heath go. He continues running, trying to get away. The feeder continues pursuing Heath with its tentacles. Heath runs into a bathroom. He is blasting at the feeder with his gun, but now he is kind of cornered in that bathroom. Heath throws a grenade into a toilet. It explodes and creates a hole in the floor where the toilet used to be. He jumps into that hole. It leads into a sewer system for the space station. Heath gets spit out into a pool of sewer water. And down in those sewers, Heath finds a woman down there. Her name is Mara Esperanza. Despite the life or death situation going on, Heath still gives her body a look over. He finds her attractive. Heath says, "Howdy." Mara replies, "Get a good look?" Heath answers, "Yes, thank you." The two of them introduce themselves to one another. Mara says that she has been down here hiding from the flesh-eating monsters for a while now. She watched them consume every soul on the station and multiply to implausible numbers. Heath explains, "The creatures, they're called feeders. That's all they do, most streamlined life form in existence. They consume any flesh, and they excrete only eggs, no waste. Pure reproduction. The colonies that first tried to settle the feeders' homeworld were wiped out in a single cycle. One pod managed to escape to Charamanta, and well, I'm sure you know what happened there. The United Systems had to annihilate all life on the planet. These things are just plain old unstoppable. And now there are regulations that forbid even entering their system that their homeworld is in." Mara replies, "Well, someone on Dresden didn't get that memo." The feeders arrived aboard a shipping vessel from Dresden. Dressin is the home planet of the Dressites, an alien race that 10 years ago was one of the invaders on Earth during something called the Anubis Conflict. The Anubis Conflict was when Earth was invaded by 3 alien races: the Titaldians, the Dressites, and the Zarin, and humanity was forced to fight back. Most died, and the creation of the Fear Agents was formed. Humanity, whom knew nothing of aliens before this previously, was all of a sudden thrust into the world of the intergalactic community. The exact details of this Anubis conflict will be explained more in future volumes. For now, all you need to know is that these Dressites were involved. Heath, who was a veteran of the Anubis conflict, thinks that if the Dressin were involved, then this feeder infestation was no accident. Heath, with another grenade, blows up the wall of the room they are in, which leads into space. All of the sewer water begins flowing outside, and then Mara and Heath, with their spacesuits on, they go out into space, and they are making their way on the outside of the space station. They are trying to shimmy their way over to Heath's rocket ship so that they can get out of here. Along the way, they peer into a window inside the space station, and they see a whole bunch of Dressite soldiers who appear to be poking and prodding and controlling the feeders and shoving them into various trucks. Heath wonders what the Dressite are planning to do with these trucks full of feeders. Mara says she overheard a big debate that the Dressite soldiers were having with some guys about shipping warrants. Mara, with a shocked look on her face, remembers what she heard. She says, "These trucks full of feeders are headed to Earth." And we see all the trucks now have taken off and are on their way to Earth. And when they get there, if the feeders arrive, Earth will be done for. Issue 3, Reignition Chapter 3. Heath and Mara have made their way back to Heath's rocket ship. Mara thinks they should try to put out a distress call and warn Earth. Heath says that all communications are down. Instead, they need to try to outrun the convoy of trucks headed to Earth, and maybe they can try and stop them. He also comes to the conclusion that the Dressites must be looking to annihilate Earth. Heath tells his AI Annie to point the ship at Earth and punch the warp engines as hard as you can. Heath's ship takes off. Now we see something weird. Some of the Dressites in the space station that were watching Heath leave, well, they appear to be controlling that Thomas York, the one that called Heath to the space station in the first place. The 2 Dressites, talking to each other, say, "Has the Earther taken the bait?" "Yes." "Excellent work. The Dressite destiny will see fruition." So these Dressite aliens appear to have wanted Heath to head to Earth. In Heath's rocket ship, the warp engines engage, and they start flying really fast. Too fast, even. Heath and Mara are really feeling the effects of the great speed on their bodies. Heath asks Annie, "What in God's name are you doing?" Annie answers, "Heath, the warp fuel I took from the station. It's a compound of hyperfuel I've never seen before. The engines, they're bending space." Whatever hyperfuel Annie appears to have taken from the space station and filled the ship with, it is not fuel she has seen before. She didn't have time to run a diagnostic on it. Heath asks Annie, "Can you hold it together or shut the engines down?" Annie answers, "No, I don't think I can." The ship, it flies so fast thanks to this strange hyperfuel that it actually bends space, and they travel back in time, although they do not realize it for a while. But yes, the ship travels so fast, it travels through time and there is an explosion, and they come out the other side. And Heath and Mara, they pass out in all of the commotion. Annie, she yells at Heath to please wake up. Eventually, Heath does, and Heath engages the emergency crash protocol for the ship. And the ship,
It goes down and crash lands on a strange alien planet. This planet appears to be covered in snow. It is post-apocalyptic, and the ship is tearing through all of these dilapidated buildings, which seem to have been stripped down of all their metal. The spaceship eventually hits the surface, and it finally comes to a stop. Heath and Mara are a little banged up, but they are alive and okay. The AI Annie tells Heath that he needs to get out of this ship now. It's going to blow any minute. Heath grabs Mara and the two of them head outside. They get a little bit away, and then the ship explodes. Heath's AI Annie is gone. Heath thinks to himself, "No way to get around this being my fault. Once I knew the Dressites were involved, I should have known I'd been lured. Mara's out cold, but she's alive. She's in for one hell of a rude awakening. We've crashed on some post-apocalyptic, lifeless ice turd. Suits are space safe. They'll keep us from the cold, but with no food or shelter, can't see us lasting too long." He starts climbing a dilapidated building on the outside with Mara on his shoulder. Some strange-looking robots spot Heath and they fire on him with their laser eyes. Heath dodges the lasers and swings onto a nearby floor. Mara finally wakes up from being passed out, and she punches Heath, saying, "Hands off, pig!" She seemed to have misinterpreted why Heath was so close to her. He starts falling off the building to the ground, but luckily he has a jetpack on, which he triggers, and he manages to slow his fall. The killer robots on the ground are still trying to zap Heath. Heath is shooting back at them and running and dodging. There are now dozens of these robots, all pursuing Heath. Heath rounds a corner and is now face to face with a very large robot, maybe 2 or 3 times human size, and it also has a brain in it at the top. This robot with the brain in it is actually a race called the Tetaldians. The Tetaldians were one of the alien races that were involved in the invasion of Earth in the Anubis conflict. This Tetaldian starts firing at Heath, along with other robots. The Tetaldian then grabs at Heath with its large arms. Heath manages to throw another grenade at this Tetaldian's head, and it explodes, killing the brain inside the robot. Heath, he falls to the ground. The Tetaldian robot falls onto Heath along with chunks of its brain. Mara, she arrives and she helps Heath up. She didn't mean to hit him earlier, it was just instinct. Once Heath is up, the two of them, him and Mara, they continue running, still trying to avoid this army of killer robots. Heath grabs Mara and, using his jetpack, gets the two of them a few floors off of the ground. And as they look down to the street, the army of robots is still pursuing them. The robots are just everywhere. Heath and Mara, they are running through this dilapidated building, killing some robots along the way. They're sliding under some, running by others, they even jump over a few. Another Tetaldian robot with a brain pops out of the floor of the building, and it corners Mara. Mara yells for help. Heath runs back and kicks that Tetaldian in the head, knocking the brain out of the robot's head, killing it. Heath grabs onto Mara and uses his jetpack to blast them away once again. He flies them in the air a bit, trying to find a safe place to land. Eventually, though, a harpoon-like weapon gets fired right through Heath's body from the ground, and Heath and Mara, they crash to the planet's surface. Heath is severely injured but still alive. Eventually, Heath and Mara are confronted by these ape-looking humanoids with white hair and beards. These creatures are called Astorgians, and this is their home planet. Issue 4, Reignition, Chapter 4. One of the Astorgians grabs Heath and inspects him. They bring Heath and Mara back to their city, and they tend to Heath and Mara's injuries. After a few days of healing, when Heath and Mara are feeling better, they speak with the Astorgians. Mara has some spare translator devices, and she gives it to them so that they can all communicate. as they speak a different language. The Astorgians have never seen humans before, and they find Heath and Mara very strange looking. They all go sit by a fire, get warm, and eat food. The leader of the Astorgians is a creature named Jens. Jens tells Heath and Mara that the Tetaldians hunt tirelessly. Jens asks if they know of the Tetaldians. Mara answers yes, they attacked my world, Earth, years ago. Jens, the leader of the Astorgians, says, "This would be impossible. None on this planet have reached the stars. Perhaps this tragic history has been repeated on other worlds, but I assure you this infection has spread no further." Jens then explains to them the history of the Astorgians and the Tetaldians. Jens, he says to the group, "We Astorgians are all that remain of a once proud race. We were not always scavenging rodents, cowering in the wilderness. Many years ago, the cities on this world flourished, and we Astorgians did as well. Our technology had developed to a point where we lived long lives with much time to spend in the pursuit of higher learning and art. When our most beloved leader and philosopher, Tetald, was coming to the end of his life, the greatest scientific minds of the time gathered in hopes that they could discover a way to grant him a reprieve from death. They soon discovered the technology to grant eternal life. It was rudimentary, simply placing Tetald's brain in an android body. Time passed, and under the watchful eye of Tetald, many of the High Court were given his blessing as their time came to pass. Tetald believed it was the will of the two gods that the Astorgians would one day become advanced enough that all might be immortal through technology. Cybernetics was thought to be the next stage of evolution. Tetald's two disciples, Trollene and Gentoo, continued the process of transferring dying Astorgians into metal bodies to live on. But a problem was discovered. There was not enough metal on this planet to give everyone the blessing of eternal life. So, Tetald ordered the process halted immediately going forward. If the robot bodies and eternal life could not be granted to everybody, well, Tetald felt it was evil to only grant eternal life to the upper classes. He feared resentments would eventually fuel an uprising, a war that would destroy their society. The one disciple of Tetald, named Gentoo, disagreed with Tetald's pronouncement, so he sabotaged Tetald's body and assassinated their great leader. With Tetald dead, Gentoo convinced the small society of robots that he spoke for the beloved Tetald. The other disciple, though, of Tetald, Trollene, suspected that Gentoo was involved in the death of their leader, so Trollene ordered a halt to all further robot abominations, and his loyalists stood up to Gentoo, and a great war erupted between the two factions. However, eventually, Gentoo's side won the faction war, and Gentoo became the new leader, and Gentoo decreed all flesh to be weakness, and all remaining Astorgians were to be executed. Gentoo had also discovered a most efficient fuel source that would power his army of robots for many, many years. The source of that fuel was the life force of the remaining Astorgian population. So Astorgians were rounded up and slaughtered and transformed into hyperfuel for Gentoo's robots. And Gentoo, he twisted Tetald's teachings, and Gentoo's society refers to themselves now as Tetaldians to this day. Gentoo taught his Tetaldian followers of a need for a larger force in order to spread their twisted religion across the universe. They tore our grand cities down. The metal was needed to create an army of death dealers. To the west of us, they used the precious metals in an attempt to construct a fleet of spacecraft. If they succeed, they will use these craft to farm life on other worlds. However, they will not succeed. We have sacrificed much in order to sabotage these efforts. They have failed to complete a single vessel. Jens, he finishes his history story, and Heath and Mara discuss the implications of this story. The Tetaldians were the first aliens to invade Earth. Heath says that the Chaldeans killed some of his family in their invasion. They are the reason his son and father are dead. Mara explains that she was just a little girl when Earth was invaded. Mara is confused though. These can't be the same Chaldeans. These things haven't invented space travel yet. Heath then holds up something called a universal clock. It is something he carries in his suit, and when he looks at the date and time on this clock, he realizes that when they were traveling earlier and they were hyperspace jumping, they must have traveled through time. Heath, though, he is kind of happy about this. He says, "According to this, we're 20,000 years in the past. You know what this means? We got us a chance to stop these dirty sons of bitches before they ever start. I'm gonna save my boy." Later that night, Heath excitedly tells Jens something that they discovered on Earth when they fought the Chaldeans in the future. A weakness in the Chaldeans. Heath explains to Jens, "Now see, a pal of mine discovered on Earth was that the fuel used by the Chaldeans also acts as a potent fertilizer. Never occurred to me as to why till I heard you tell me how they make the stuff. So if you take a rifle and equip a small amount of plant life on the front of its barrel and spray the hyperfuel through the plant, well, the Chaldeans we fought had one weakness, their joints, and the fluid, it would spray through the plant and get into their joints, and the plants expand, and bang, crippled robot." Jens, he is hopeful in what Heath is telling him. He tells Heath, "If you are indeed from the future, and what you tell me of the suffering these monsters cause will come to pass, you will have my best men for this mission. You must kill Gentoo." Heath is then given a team of the best Astorgian fighters to join him on a covert mission to kill this Gentoo. The leader of the squad is a military general-looking dude in a helmet named Ket. Ket will lead the soldiers along with Heath. Jens gives the squad a motivational speech before they set off. Jens says to them, "Heroes of Astorgia, the road we walk today defines our very existence. In obliterating Gentoo, we ensure victory. Without his leadership, the Chaldean legions will fall. Should you fail, know this. Our people will eternally be known as the race that gave birth to this vast force of malevolence. Keep that in your hearts, and you will prevail." Mara, she says goodbye to Heath before he leaves on this mission. She explains that Jens is going to try and retrieve Annie for them. Maybe when Heath gets back, they can try and fix her up, maybe fix up their rocket ship. Heath, not believing he is coming back from this mission, says, "Right, sure." Heath, Ket, and the squad of Astorgians start making their way into the city where Gentoo lives in a high tower. They go into some tunnels, and in the tunnels, they get ambushed by some robots. Heath and the others fire their weapons like madmen. Heath, he is crazed with revenge, and he yells, "Kill every last one of them! For every father and son these soulless sons of bitches have taken from us! Kill them all!" While Ket and the others are fighting off the robots, Ket tells Heath to go now, while there is still time. Get to the top of the tower and kill Gentoo. Heath, he nods, and with his jetpack he starts blasting his way up the tower, while Ket stays behind fighting with the others. As soon as Heath leaves though, Ket, the leader of this Astorgian band of fighters, turns on the other Astorgians, and he starts bashing their heads in. And Ket, he states, "For the glory of Tetal, for the glory of Gentoo." Ket is actually a traitor secretly working for the Chaldeans. You see, we are at the tower where Gentoo is now. Heath, he jetpacks up it, and he is throwing grenades on Chaldeans along the way. Finally, at the top of the tower, Heath is face to face with Gentoo, whose brain is in a large machine in the room. Gentoo tells Heath, "Ket delivered you earlier than anticipated. Approach." Heath walks up to Gentoo and blasts the glass brain holding him, but Gentu's brain actually travels through a piping system into a different location, into another different massive robot. Heath, he sprays Gentu's new robot body with his weapon, but it seems to be useless against this new body. Gentoo was forewarned by Ket. Gentoo must have fixed the flaw in this particular robot's suit. This was all a trap. Gentoo exclaims, "No, traveler, your ploy will not succeed." Gentoo, with his robot arms, grabs Heath and picks him up, and then smashes him down on the ground. Heath is lying on the ground, injured. He is dying. Gentoo tells Heath, "Upon hearing the news from Ket that my plan will succeed on such a scale, you can't imagine what hope you've given me. Rest your concerns. I will make certain the future remains intact as the time approaches. Nothing will change. But this time, thanks to you, I know what flaw to eliminate from my warrior's design." Gentoo then walks over to Heath and raises his robotic boot, and he stomps Heath into a bloody mess. And with that cliffhanger, we end Volume 1. Is our hero Heath dead? Well, he certainly looks dead. Not sure how one recovers from this.
Alright, so that was Fear Agent Volume 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you are digging this book. Now, I thought it was pretty fun. Now, is it the most serious book talking about serious issues and making you think about your life? No. It is just crazy, sci-fi, entertaining, action fun. And that is okay. The amount of action in this book and how quick-paced it was, and the weird, crazy aliens that are just thrown in your face and crazy lore dumps, and maybe it's a little confusing, you don't get it all, but it's pretty cool, man. It's quite the ride. I had a good time with it. I thought the artwork was also really cool. So I thought this was a really compelling, a really fun opening volume. And what a cliffhanger! It seems like Heath died, but spoiler alert, there is more of the story, so he's going to be around. But how will he be around? So, yeah, great stuff. I'm going to give this opening volume an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next week with Volume 2.